I was born to a young married couple, and when I was 6 months old, my mom decided she wanted to leave my dad. So my dad came home, and I was sitting on the table and baby carrier with a note that said that she just wasn't, I think, prepared to be a mom. And so I was born the day before my dad turned 21. So as a 21-year-old young man, my dad decided to step up and raise me as a single dad. Now that I have kids of my own, I fully appreciate what that commitment was. And so we lived in Alaska. My dad, throughout his life, battled addiction issues. And as I got older and got into high school, we moved back to Chicago, where my dad was from. And we unfortunately got into this cycle where the issues that my dad had would manifest themselves in unproductive ways. And we got into this repeated cycle where we'd get in a fight and I would get kicked out. And so I would go and stay with other families and did a lot of couch surfing. And so at that point in my life, I started to realize that I needed something different as a future, and I focused on education. My dad had dropped out of high school. He was actually really smart and was incredibly handy, a little bit like MacGyver. To quote Travis, that was a show in the 1900s where a guy could fix anything with just whatever was available to him. So my dad was a lot like that. And during that time, I really struggled, despite having families in my life that attended church or had faith, to recognize those seeds that were being planted, because I felt a little bit abandoned by God. I was a very good student. I excelled in various sports and was never in trouble. So I felt like I was doing all the things that a kid needed to do to be well supported by his family. So fast forward, say 15 years later, I meet this amazing woman, Susan. We start a family together. And in 2011, we moved here with 3 kids under 5. And so when we were in Chicago, we attended a mega church. Attending is the wrong term. The senior pastor there actually had a term that stuck with me. He called it being a drive-through Christian, where you would show up on Sunday and you would leave and you made it to the service if it was convenient or you didn't have anything else going on. But when we moved here, 3 kids under 5 is a lot. And so Susie and I got connected at the church that we were at. We actually attended, it wasn't branded as Alpha, but very similar program. So plug, I didn't get paid by Allison to say this, but part of my story is being around other believers and being able to ask questions. So that was really the springboard to my faith. Finding a church, plugging in with other believers, and having honest dialogue. So as I think about kind of that experience to where we are today, I think there's a couple of other, for me personally, meaningful interactions that I have that are part of my story. One has to do with music. Don't get me wrong, I'll still crank up some Eminem from time to time. But most times in my car, I have Christian radio on. And there's a song by Casting Crowns. I'm going to read the lyrics. This is our resolution, our answer to the call. We will love our wives and children. We refuse to let them fall. We will reignite the passion that we bury deep inside. May the watchers become warriors. Let the men of God arise. Scripture tells us that the husband is supposed to be the spiritual leader of the home, and I wasn't doing that. So you take Alpha and the seeds that planted, you take experiencing meaningful Christian music, the lyrics that I just read to you, and you ignite a bonfire on top of that with a men's group that Mark Coggin and I started and is on year 10. And such an important part of my journey is recognizing that throughout my life that I wouldn't have called it God moments, but now with hindsight being 2020, I can see parents of teammates, I can see parents of girlfriends, I can see teachers, I can see coaches that chose to intervene at critical points in my life. So where does all that leave me? It's 2025. I'm still a work in progress. As a spiritual leader of my own, I think with Susie's amazing support, I've done a good job. I know grading on the curve. I've probably been a B plus dad, but I'm going to be a A plus grandpa. I need all of you to hold me accountable for that someday. And I am so unbelievably lucky to have the people in my life that help hold me accountable and that keep me on the path. And so my encouragement to you is that God has a plan for all of us. And we may have gone through seasons or big sections in our life when we didn't understand that, but God has a plan for you, and especially for you dads. May the watchers become warriors. Let the man of God arise. I think about that line every day. And my prayer for all of you dads out there is that you find that line empowering, and that at some point in your life that you're sitting here hopefully holding it together better than I am, but talking about something that ignited something in you that changed the way that you behaved in your community, with your family, and with your friends. My name is Ray Jebsen, and that's my story.